All right, so get ready because today we are taking a deep dive into something pretty incredible.
Well, I like the sound of that.
Yeah, it's all about rewiring our brains,
Reprogramming.
Yeah, reprogramming our
I
minds
like it.
for the better. And we've got some really interesting sources lined up for you today.
Awesome.
So we're going to be looking at a WikiHow article. We've got some Audible book summaries that we're going to pull some really interesting insights from. And then we're going to go deep with the power of your subconscious mind.
Sounds like a diverse set of perspectives.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm really excited to kind of see how all of these different sources, because they all have something to say about this idea of like rewiring your brain for success and for positivity.
I'm intrigued.
Yeah, so are you ready to kind of jump into this?
Let's do it.
Okay, so I guess the first question is like, when you hear the phrase reprogramming your mind, like what's the first thing that pops into your head?
Honestly, the first thing I think of is some kind of sci-fi movie scene where they're like, downloading information into someone's brain. Yeah.
But obviously that's not what we're talking about. Obviously a lot more nuanced than that.
It is, but the WikiHow article actually starts with a pretty down-to-earth suggestion.
Okay.
Spend a week journaling your thoughts.
Okay.
It's all about just sort of becoming aware of those patterns, of the things that come up again and again.
So is it really that simple though? Because like, I feel like that's kind of self-help 101, right?
Yeah, it is in a way, but I think it's about laying the groundwork.
Okay.
Because the power of your subconscious mind dives into this and really emphasizes that the quality of our lives is directly tied to the quality of our thoughts.
Okay, so that's kind of a bold statement, right? But I get it because, like, if you're constantly thinking negative thoughts, if you're always dwelling on the things that are going wrong,
Right.
it's going to affect how you perceive the world and how you act, right?
It will, and that brings up an interesting point from the book. Like, where do these beliefs even come from? Are they truly ours or have we inherited them?
Oh, yeah.
From our families, from our culture, from society at large.
So you're saying before we even try to, like, reprogram anything, we need to kind of question those deeply ingrained beliefs?
I think it's an essential first step because once you become aware of those thought patterns,
Yeah.
then you can start to make a conscious choice to replace them with thoughts that empower you.
Okay, so I guess the next question is, like, once we've kind of done that journaling, we've pinpointed some of those negative thoughts that are coming up again and again. What do we do with them?
Well, the WikiHow article talks about consciously replacing those thoughts with more positive ones.
Okay.
And they give this really simple example.
Okay.
Like, if you find yourself thinking, I'm not good enough,
Yeah, all the time.
immediately counter that with a mental list of all the things that you are good at.
Okay.
Your accomplishments, your strengths. It's almost like a mental tug of war.
I love that.
You're pulling yourself towards the positive. And those Audible summaries that we looked at on NLP and mental toughness, they really emphasize this idea of repetition as being key.
Okay.
They talk about affirmations as a tool for essentially rewiring those neural pathways in your brain.
Okay, hold on. Wait a minute. For those of us who aren't brain surgeons,
Right.
what exactly are neural pathways and like how does this rewiring thing even work?
So imagine your brain as a vast network of roads.
Okay.
And every time you have a thought,
Yeah.
it's like driving down one of those roads.
Okay.
You're strengthening that pathway.
I like that.
So the more you repeat a thought, whether it's positive or negative,
Yeah.
the more ingrained that pathway becomes.
Okay, so affirmations are basically like building new highways in our brains.
That's a great way to put
And
it.
that.
Because you're consistently repeating those positive phrases.
Yeah.
I am confident, I am capable. And you're literally paving new neural pathways, making it easier for your brain to default to those positive thoughts over time.
So it's not just about suppressing negative thoughts. You're actually training your brain
Yes.
to think differently.
You're literally rewiring it for success and positivity.
That's fascinating.
It is, and it's amazing what our brains are capable of.
Yeah, okay, so that's cool. We can kind of address those negative thoughts that we've identified through journaling. But what about like habits? What about those things that we do almost automatically even when we know they're not good for us?
So habits are tricky, but that WikiHow article dives into this with a method they call deconditioning.
Conditioning, okay.
Essentially, it's about exposing yourself to the triggers that cause the habit
Yeah.
while resisting the urge to engage in the habit itself.
So it's like willpower training or something.
It is, in a way, they give this example of overeating. Like, imagine you're smelling or seeing your favorite snack,
Oh,
but you consciously choose not to indulge.
okay, that's hard.
The key here is repetition. You're gradually weakening the link between that trigger and the bad habit.
Okay, But let's say I'm trying to quit smoking. Am I supposed to like sit there with a pack of cigarettes, like staring at them all day, but not lighting up?
Well, that's where I think the power of your subconscious mind comes in with a really interesting point.
Okay.
Because the book talks about how the subconscious mind is always working even when you're asleep.
Oh, wow.
So if you're trying to break a habit, focusing on those positive affirmations before sleep
Okay.
can actually help.
So you're telling me I can just tell myself, like, I am a non-smoker over and over before bed,
Right.
and that will help?
The idea is that your subconscious is highly receptive during sleep.
Oh, wow.
So you're planting those positive seeds. You're essentially working on the problem even while you're unconscious.
Okay, so we've talked about thought patterns and habits. This all seems very, like, mental.
Right.
Like, what about, like, the actual act of changing your behavior?
Right, and that's where I think the idea of finding positive alternatives comes in.
Okay.
The WikiHow article really emphasizes this. Instead of just trying to stop a bad habit, focus on replacing it with something positive.
Okay, so, like, instead of reaching for that cigarette, maybe I go for a walk or I chew some gum or something.
Exactly. You're redirecting that energy towards something constructive.
Yeah.
And those audible summaries on mental toughness, they talk about this as a skill you can develop. It's not about being some kind of stoic robot. It's about building that mental resilience over time.
So, like, building up those mental muscles.
Exactly.
So you can resist temptation and you can stick to the goals.
Exactly. It's like going to the gym for your mind.
I love that. Okay, so much to think about already, and I feel like we're just scratching the surface here, but what's resonating with you the most so far out of everything we've talked about?
You know, I'm really intrigued by this idea that we can actually rewire our brains by consistently repeating those affirmations
Yeah.
and challenging those negative thought patterns. It's like we have so much more control over our minds than we realize.
That's a really empowering thought, isn't it?
It is, and I think that's a great place to start.
Awesome. Well, we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to dive even deeper into the world of the subconscious.
I can't wait.
Stay with us. All right, so we're back, and we're ready to delve even deeper into this whole idea of reprogramming our minds.
Yeah, we've talked about kind of rewiring those neural pathways,
Right.
but now it's time to go even further into the realm of the subconscious.
Okay, so this is where the power of your subconscious mind really comes in.
It does. It's like we're exploring a whole hidden world within ourselves.
Okay, so before we get too mystical here,
Right.
can you just break it down for me? Like, what exactly is the subconscious?
Yeah, it can be a little confusing, but
Okay.
think of it this way, like your conscious mind, that's the tip of the iceberg.
Okay.
It's the part that's aware of its surroundings, making choices, but beneath that surface, there's this vast and powerful realm of the subconscious.
So all those like ingrained beliefs and habits that we talked about earlier, there's like the subconscious at work.
Exactly. It's like the operating system running in the background,
Okay.
shaping our perceptions and our actions without us even realizing it.
And the power of your subconscious mind basically says that this hidden world isn't just influencing us, it's actually shaping our reality. Right?
That's the main premise of the book, yeah, and it uses this analogy of a magnetized versus a demagnetized person.
Okay, I remember that from the book, but it honestly left me with more questions than answers.
Right?
Like, what does it actually mean to be magnetized? How do you get there?
Yeah, it's not literal magnetism, obviously.
Yeah.
It's really about the power of belief.
Okay.
So a magnetized person is someone who's just brimming with confidence, self-belief, and that in turn attracts success, positive experiences.
So it's like our beliefs become self-fulfilling prophecies.
In a way, yeah, if you believe that you're capable and worthy,
Yeah,
you're more likely to act in ways that bring about those outcomes.
that makes sense. And then I guess on the flip side, if you're constantly doubting yourself, you're demagnetized, you're probably going to sabotage yourself without even realizing it.
Exactly, and the book argues that our habitual thoughts and images
Yeah.
are literally shaping our destiny.
Okay, so that's a pretty heavy concept.
It is.
But how do we actually shift those deeply ingrained subconscious beliefs? Is it as simple as just like thinking positive thoughts?
I wish it were that easy.
Yeah,
The book emphasizes that it takes conscious effort and practice,
okay.
but it suggests that one powerful technique is what it calls disciplined imagination.
Okay, so not just daydreaming,
Right.
but actually like visualizing yourself already possessing those qualities that you want to develop.
Exactly. So let's say you want to be more confident.
Yeah.
The book suggests creating a really vivid mental image of yourself acting confidently in different situations.
Okay,
Maybe it's speaking up at a meeting, taking on a new challenge, approaching people with ease.
so it's like creating a mental movie where you're the star.
Yes,
And the more you rehearse that role, the more natural it becomes in real life.
exactly. And that actually ties back to what we were talking about earlier with neural pathways.
Oh, yeah?
The more you engage in those visualizations, the stronger those pathways become.
Okay.
So it becomes easier for your subconscious mind to accept that confident version of you as reality.
So it's almost like we're tricking our brains into believing that we're already that person.
In a way, yeah, you're planting those seeds of
I
possibility.
like that. Okay, so we're actively visualizing, But what about those times when we're not? Life isn't just one big vision board, right?
You're right, and that's where I think the book's emphasis on sleep is so fascinating,
Okay.
because it argues that the subconscious mind continues to work even while we're sleeping.
Oh, wow. So it's like our brains are doing overtime processing all those images and messages that we fed them throughout the day.
Exactly, so that's why the book recommends engaging in positive affirmations before sleep.
Okay.
So you're repeating those empowering phrases as you drift off to sleep.
It's like giving your subconscious mind a to-do list for the night.
In a sense, yeah, you're giving a set of instructions to work on while you're resting.
So I could like whisper, I am a millionaire a few times before bed and then wake up with a 7-figure bank account.
I wish it were that simple.
Yeah, okay.
It's not magic. It's about consistency and belief.
Okay.
It's about aligning your conscious and subconscious minds toward a shared goal.
So it's not a quick fix, but if we combine this idea of like subconscious programming with those practical tips from the WikiHow article, the journaling, the replacing negative thoughts, like it seems like we're building a pretty powerful framework for change.
Absolutely. And it's not just about achieving some grand vision of success. It's about improving the quality of our lives on a daily basis.
Okay, that makes sense, but this all feels very internal, right?
Right.
Like what about the role of our external environment, the people we surround ourselves with? Surely those things play a role too.
Absolutely. And while the power of your subconscious mind really focuses on the internal landscape, it's crucial to acknowledge that our external world also shapes our thoughts and behaviors.
Okay.
And that's where I think those audible summaries offer some valuable insights.
Okay.
One of the book's Think Straight really emphasizes the importance of surrounding yourself with supportive people.
Yeah.
People who encourage your growth.
It's like that saying, you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with.
Exactly. And if those people are negative, critical, constantly dragging you down,
Yeah.
it's going to be that much harder to reprogram your mind for positivity and success.
So we need to like do a mental inventory of our relationships.
Yes.
Make sure they're aligned with the direction that we want to be going.
I think that's essential. And it might mean having some tough conversations, setting boundaries, even distancing ourselves from relationships that are no longer serving us.
Okay, so we're being mindful of our inner world and our outer world.
Right.
But let's be real. Sometimes life throws curveballs that are completely outside of our control. So how do we stay resilient and positive when things get really tough?
That's when mental toughness comes back. And those
Okay.
audible summaries really emphasize that it's not about being some kind of superhuman
Yeah.
who never feels fear or doubt. It's about developing the skills to navigate those challenges effectively.
So there was one summary that talked about reframing negative thoughts.
Yes.
Can you explain what that means?
So it's about consciously choosing to see those challenges as opportunities for growth
Okay.
rather than these insurmountable obstacles.
Okay.
So for example, instead of getting bogged down by a setback, ask yourself, what can I learn from this?
Yeah.
How can I use this experience to become stronger and wiser?
So it's about shifting your perspective, finding the silver lining even when things feel really difficult.
Exactly. And it's not about denying those negative emotions.
Right.
It's about acknowledging them, processing them, and then choosing to focus on solutions and forward momentum.
So being honest with yourself,
Yes,
feeling those feelings, but not letting them control you.
exactly.
Okay, that makes sense.
It's about taking back the reins and steering yourself in a more positive direction.
So the more we practice these skills, the stronger we become,
Absolutely.
and the better equipped we are to handle whatever life throws our way.
Exactly. It's like building those mental muscles.
I like that analogy.
We talked about it earlier.
Yeah, it's a good one.
It's like going to the gym for your mind.
Yeah, it's so interesting to me how all of these seemingly like disparate concepts, the subconscious programming, the mental toughness, the supportive relationships, it's like they're all interconnected.
They're all pieces of the puzzle that fit together to create a more resilient, successful, and fulfilling life.
I love that. Okay, so we've got the mental and emotional side of things covered. But let's go back to that WikiHow article for a minute.
Okay.
We talked about journaling and deconditioning earlier, but what other practical tips did you find helpful?
One that stood out to me was their emphasis on taking action.
Okay,
It's easy to get caught up in reading self-help books,
Yeah.
listening to podcasts like this one,
right.
planning for a better future, but without action, those ideas remain just that, ideas.
So it's not enough to just think about change. We have to actually do something.
Exactly, and the article suggests starting small,
Okay.
breaking down those big goals into smaller, more manageable steps.
So instead of like vowing to overhaul your entire life,
Right.
maybe start with one small habit change, like going for a 15-minute walk every day or something.
Exactly, baby steps.
Baby steps, yeah.
And the article also emphasizes the importance of celebrating those small wins.
Okay, yeah.
Each time you successfully resist a temptation, you stick to a new habit, habit, you achieve a small goal.
Yeah.
Take a moment to acknowledge and reward yourself.
Okay, so we're like reinforcing those positive behaviors. Yeah,
Exactly.
making the journey a little bit more enjoyable.
Exactly. And reminding yourself that change is possible.
But let's be honest, those bad habits sometimes feel incredibly strong.
You do.
Like, what if we slip up? Does that mean we failed?
Not at all. The article really stresses that setbacks are a natural part of the process.
Okay.
It's not about being perfect.
Yeah.
It's about progress.
Progress, not perfection.
Exactly. So if you slip up, acknowledge it, learn from it,
Yeah.
and get back on track.
So being kind to ourselves.
Yes,
Recognizing that change is a journey, not a destination.
exactly.
Okay, that's really helpful.
I think it's an important mindset shift.
Yeah, okay, so we've got these practical tips for working on our mindset, but what about technology? Like in today's world, are there tools that can help us reprogram our minds more effectively?
That's a good question, and the WikiHow article actually touches on this.
Okay,
They mention using apps like Stress-Free Life or I Can Do It,
okay.
which are tools that provide reminders, encouragement, guided meditations.
It's like having a personal cheerleader in your pocket,
Exactly.
reminding you to stay positive and on track.
Exactly. And there are tons of apps out there for habit tracking, mindfulness, sleep improvement.
Okay, so technology can be a powerful ally,
It can.
but it's important to use it mindfully.
Absolutely. You don't want it to become another distraction.
Right, exactly. Okay, so we've got all these practical tips. We're diving into the subconscious. We're using technology. But this whole conversation about reprogramming our minds raises a question for me.
Okay.
Like, are we essentially trying to manipulate ourselves?
That's a really interesting question.
Yeah.
And I think it boils down to intention.
Okay,
Are you using these techniques to become the best version of yourself?
yeah.
Or are you trying to force yourself into some idealized mold that doesn't really align with who you are?
Right, so it could be used for good or for ill,
Exactly.
like anything else.
It's about self-awareness, honesty, and a commitment to growth.
That's authentic and sustainable.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground. We've talked about journaling, affirmations, subconscious programming, the role of technology, even the ethics of it all. But I feel like there's still one crucial piece that we haven't really touched on.
What's that?
Belief.
Oh, yes, belief.
Like, without belief, even the most powerful tools and techniques are useless, right?
I think that's true, but belief can be a slippery concept,
It can.
especially when you're struggling with self-doubt, negative thought patterns, past setbacks.
Right, so how do we cultivate belief when we're feeling anything but?
Well, that's where I think those audible summaries on success and wealth offer some really interesting insights.
Okay.
One of the books, Highly Productive, argues that wealth is ultimately a state of mind.
Okay, now that sounds a little bit like those manifesting gurus who are like, just think your way to riches.
Right, but the book goes deeper than that.
Okay,
It suggests that you can actually program your mind for wealth attraction
okay,
by cultivating a belief in abundance
okay.
and visualizing yourself already achieving financial success.
So it's not just wishing for money.
No.
It's about shifting your mindset to believe that abundance is possible
Yes,
and then acting in ways that align with that belief.
exactly. And that might mean taking calculated risks,
Yeah,
pursuing new opportunities, investing in your skills, managing your finances more effectively.
so taking action, right.
Absolutely, action is key.
Okay, so we're taking action, we're cultivating this belief in abundance, but what about those times when we're facing setbacks or challenges that seem to contradict that belief?
That's where mental toughness comes in again.
Okay,
The book Mental Toughness really emphasizes the importance of developing resilience and perseverance in the face of challenges.
so we're training our minds to push through those obstacles, overcome those setbacks, never give up on our dreams.
Exactly, and that ties in perfectly with the WikiHow article's emphasis on deconditioning and replacing those negative habits with positive ones.
Yeah.
It's all about building those mental muscles so you can handle whatever life throws your way.
Okay, so we're building that inner strength
Yes,
that allows us to stay on course even when things get tough.
exactly.
That brings us back to the core message of this deep dive, right? We have the power to reprogram our minds for positive change.
We do.
We can create the life that we desire.
And it's not about wishing or magical formulas. It's about consistent effort, self-awareness, and belief in your own potential.
It's about becoming the architect of your own destiny,
Exactly.
designing a blueprint for success and happiness that's uniquely yours.
And while the journey might not always be easy,
Yeah.
the rewards are immeasurable.
Okay, so before we wrap up this part, I want to touch on one more thing from the Audible summaries that really resonated with me.
Okay?
Think Straight talks about how the path to success is rarely a straight line.
It's true, life is full of twists and turns.
Right, so the author emphasizes the importance of embracing those detours, those setbacks, those unexpected turns.
Yeah, seeing them as opportunities for growth and learning.
It's like that saying, life is what happens when you're busy making other plans.
Exactly. So instead of getting discouraged when things don't go according to plan,
Yeah.
try to see the bigger picture
Okay.
and trust that you're exactly where you're supposed to be.
So maybe those detours are actually leading you to something even better than you could have imagined.
That's a great way to look at it.
Yeah, and I so liked how the book talks about being present
Yes.
and appreciating those small moments of joy along the way.
It's so easy to get caught up in the hustle and bustle,
Yeah.
striving for that next goal, that next achievement.
Yeah.
But it's those little moments,
Yeah.
the warmth of the sun, the laughter of loved ones, the beauty of nature.
Yeah.
Those are the things that truly nourish our souls.
And when we take the time to savor those moments, we cultivate a sense of gratitude and contentment.
Absolutely. Speaking of gratitude,
Yep.
the book highlights its power as a tool for shifting our mindset from scarcity to abundance.
So when we focus on what we're grateful for, we attract more good things into our lives.
It's like the law of attraction. What you focus on expands.
So if you're constantly dwelling on what you lack, you're more likely to attract more lack.
Right, but if you cultivate an attitude of gratitude,
Yeah.
appreciating the good things you already have,
Yeah,
you open yourself up to receiving even more blessings.
I love that. And that gratitude can extend beyond just material possessions too, right? It could be for relationships, experiences, even challenges that have helped us grow.
Absolutely, because sometimes those greatest gifts come disguised as obstacles that force us to stretch and evolve.
Okay, so we're embracing the detours, we're practicing gratitude, but we also have to talk about mistakes.
Yes, mistakes are inevitable.
Yeah, we all make them.
We do. And Think Straight emphasizes the importance of learning from our mistakes
Okay?
and seeing them as valuable lessons rather than failures.
It's so easy to beat ourselves up
It is.
when we mess up.
Right, but try to reframe those experiences as opportunities for growth.
Okay.
And ask yourself, what can I learn from this? How can I use this experience to make better decisions in the future?
So adopting a growth mindset,
Exactly.
embracing challenges as stepping stones on our path to success.
I love that.
And I guess that also involves extending that same compassion and forgiveness to ourselves that we so readily offer to others.
I think that's essential because ultimately we're all works in progress,
We are.
constantly learning, evolving, and striving to be our best selves.
And that journey of self-improvement
Yes,
is a lifelong adventure,
it is.
full of ups and downs.
Twists and turns.
Yeah. And unexpected surprises.
Absolutely.
Okay, so one final takeaway from Think Straight before we move on.
Okay.
The book really emphasizes the importance of taking action,
Yes.
not letting overthinking paralyze us.
So true. It's so easy to get stuck in analysis paralysis,
It is.
weighing all the pros and cons, second guessing yourself.
Yeah.
But the book encourages us to trust our intuition,
Okay.
make a decision, and take action, even if it's imperfect.
So sometimes the best way to learn and grow is by doing,
Absolutely.
even if it means making a few mistakes along the way.
Right. Mistakes are just part of the learning process.
And taking action, even small steps,
Yes,
creates momentum
it does.
and helps us move closer to our goals.
Exactly. And remember that journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step.
Yeah, that's a good one. So don't let fear or perfectionism hold you back. Take that first step
Take that step,
and keep moving forward,
one step at a time.
one step at a time.
You got it.
Okay, I think that's a great place to pause for a minute. We're going to take a quick break.
Okay.
And when we come back, we're going to talk about the power of visualization
Awesome.
and how we can use it to really reprogram our subconscious mind for success.
Looking forward to it.
Stay tuned. It's amazing how much ground we've covered. You know, we've talked about journaling and affirmations and like really gone deep into the subconscious.
Yeah, and we've even touched on the power of belief and,
Yeah.
like all these different aspects of.
It's like self-help magic almost.
Right, it can feel that way sometimes. But, even the power of your subconscious mind.
Yeah,
It emphasizes the importance of aligning your thoughts with action.
right. It's not just enough to like wish for things to happen. You have to actually go out there and make them happen.
Exactly.
So I'm curious, like going back to that WikiHow article, what were some of the action-oriented tips that stood out to you?
So one that I thought was really interesting was their suggestion to create a vision board.
Okay, now before you lose me here,
I know.
vision boards sometimes get a bad rap.
Yeah, it can seem a little woo-woo,
Yeah.
but it's really not about some mystical ritual or anything. It's about creating a visual representation of your goals and using that as a tool to keep you motivated and focused.
Okay, so it's like a tangible reminder of what you're working towards.
Exactly, something you can look at every day to
Yeah.
reinforce those desires and keep those goals top of mind.
I like that. And the article suggests getting creative with it, right? Like using images, quotes.
Yeah, anything that speaks to you.
Yeah, make it personal.
Make it personal, yeah.
Okay, so we've got our vision board, we're feeling motivated, but what about when that motivation started to fade? Life happens, we get busy.
It's true, maintaining momentum can be a challenge.
Yeah, so how do we stay committed to this whole process of like reprogramming our minds?
Well, I think that's where discipline come in.
Okay.
And it's not about being rigid or punishing yourselves. It's about cultivating a sense of self-control
Okay.
and consistently making choices that align with your goals.
One of those Audible summaries that we looked at talked about the power of habits.
Yeah, habits are powerful.
Yeah, and it argued that like our lives are essentially the sum of our habits.
Right, both good and bad.
Yeah, so that book Think Straight had an interesting take on this.
Okay,
It said that it's not just enough to break a bad habit.
you have to replace it.
Yeah, you have to replace it with a good one.
Fill that void with something positive.
Okay, so it's not enough to just stop smoking. You need to find something healthy to do instead.
Exactly. Maybe it's taking up a new hobby or exercising or spending more time with loved ones.
Right? It's about finding something that truly fulfills you.
Yes. And the book also emphasized the importance of being patient with yourself.
Okay.
Building new habits takes time and effort.
Yeah, we're not going to change overnight.
No, and there will be setbacks along the way.
That's a really good point. Because we live in a culture that's all about like instant gratification.
Right, we want everything now.
But real change takes time.
It does.
It takes consistency, and it takes a willingness to embrace the process.
That's so important.
Yeah, okay, so patience is key.
Yes.
But, speaking of all of this, I think one of the most important takeaways from all of these sources is the importance of self-awareness.
Absolutely. Self-awareness is foundational.
Yeah, it's like the starting point for everything.
It is.
Think about understanding our thought patterns, our triggers, our strengths, our weaknesses.
Being honest with yourself about where you are and where you want to go.
Yeah, and it's not like a one-time thing. It's an ongoing journey, right?
It is. You're constantly evolving and growing.
And it's about checking in with yourself regularly, like noticing those thoughts and behaviors and making adjustments as needed.
Absolutely. It's an ongoing process.
As we're talking about this, I can't help but think back to that analogy of the magnetized person from The Power of Your Subconscious Mind.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one.
It's like self-awareness is what allows us to become aware of the magnetic forces that are at play in our lives.
I love that. It's like you're becoming conscious of the energy you're putting out into the world.
Yeah.
And how that's shaping your experiences.
And the more self-aware we are, the more we can choose to magnetize ourselves.
Exactly.
For the things that we want in life.
For success, happiness, fulfillment.
Wow, this has been such an incredible conversation.
It has. We've covered so much ground.
Yeah, we've gone from practical tips to like the depths of the subconscious mind. It's been amazing.
I agree. It's been a really insightful deep dive.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, what are some key takeaways that you want to leave our listeners with?
Well, I think the most important thing is to approach this journey with a sense of curiosity and experimentation.
Okay.
There's no one-size-fits-all approach. So be willing to try different techniques, see what works for you, and adapt as needed.
It's about finding what resonates with you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And secondly, I think it's crucial to remember that this is a journey, not a destination.
Okay.
There will be ups and downs,
Yeah.
setbacks and breakthroughs.
That's life, right?
It is. The key is to be patient with yourself.
Yeah.
Celebrate your progress and never give up on the pursuit of becoming the best version of yourself.
And lastly, I think it's important to remember that we have more power than we realize
We do.
to shape our thoughts, our beliefs, and ultimately our reality.
Absolutely.
And it's not about becoming some superhuman
Right.
who never experiences negative thoughts or emotions.
It's about learning to navigate those challenges.
Yeah.
And steering yourself in a more positive direction.
It's been such a pleasure exploring all of this with you today.
Likewise, I've really enjoyed our conversation.
And to our listeners, thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the fascinating world of reprogramming your mind for positive change.
We hope you found it insightful and inspiring.
And remember, the power to create the life you desire lies within you.
Go out there and make it happen.